Is WWE stuck in a loop? I feel like lately, every single episode of Monday Night Raw ends the same way. Especially lately as they are working on this Seth Rollins story, the Vision, you got the Shula Falla, Dog Parker, Roman Reigns is involved, and there's always shenanigans going on. And I love a good shenanigans. I like having things just getting wild and chaotic. But I can't help but notice that it feels like it's done over and over and over again. So today, in this video, we're gonna have some fun together because we are gonna go and dissect the current state of Monday Night Raw, how people might be feeling about the product. Maybe it kind of feels same old, maybe people are really enjoying it. Because we're gonna look at both sides of this. And I'll preface by saying, this is not to just sit here and just go and crap all over it, because that's just, it's just too easy to do that. We'll be healthy, we'll be constructive, because I think it's important to highlight stuff that is maybe not really working or we kind of notice about the product, the thing we watch every week. So I started to go back and I started to wonder, when did this really start to happen? Where it felt like we were in this loop, this cycle, where the endings of Monday Night Raw were a lot of rinse and repeat. And it's not just the endings. There is a bit of a pattern formula, it feels like, when I watch Monday Night Raw. And that's not a bad thing. Having some continuity, some fluidity, that's a nice word, throughout the course of a show can be a good thing for the viewer and even for the live audience. But did you know that June 23rd, 2025 was the last time Monday Night Raw ended in a clean finish? The ending to that episode was the King of the Ring finals, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, where Cody won, he beat Jey, and they shook hands at the end of the show, and that's how it ended. Now, I use the term clean finish. There have been other matches since then. There's been a main event match on Raw. The match has ended clean, where it hasn't been broken down into a disqualification, but there have been run-ins, shenanigans, wonk endings afterwards. So I'm kind of bucketing all of that, where I say it hasn't ended in a clean way. I just mean there's a match and the show ends. There's nobody else coming to interfere, post-match beatdown, brawl breaking out. But as a story device, to tell a compelling story, to move a story along, like this faction, and now that Seth is World Heavyweight Champion, of course they want to establish this as the big front and center focal point for the show, and even across both brands, for PLEs, for all of it. They're trying really hard to make sure that everyone sees this is the main thing. Because what's the counter argument? Oh, well, you don't want them on the show every single week? What, you're not supposed to have all three guys plus Paul Heyman showing up? He's the world champion now. Should they skip a week? No, but it's just maybe there are different ways creatively that they could approach this. Because I totally agree that we should be trying to get this entire faction over. You want them front and center. You want them, I guess, dominating the show in some aspects. But it's when creatively, it's all done basically the same way. We just insert and we plug in and plug out different cast members, but we end up with the same ending. Seth Rollins and the Shula Falla and Braun Breaker standing tall. But then it also got me thinking about how, with this whole idea of WWE stuck in bit of a loop, I started to wonder, when was the last time I saw a women's match end on Raw? That was actually back on May 12th. It was a tag team match of Julia and Roxanne going up against Io and Rhea Ripley. May 12th. It's August. That was the last time the women main evented the show. But then, of course, I wanted to make sure I looked at Smackdown too, because really I'm focusing in on Raw, because a lot of the feedback and just a lot of stuff I see, it's really pertaining to Monday Night Raw and how they're utilizing all the star power over there and ending the show. So then Smackdown, it is a little bit different actually, which is kind of nice. Smackdown doesn't always get people all riled up and thinking that it was this huge, tremendous show where anything happened, it was unpredictable. Smackdown, I think, ends up being a little bit more on the safe side, but it does have some different endings week to week. We had like go-homes with the TLC match, and you had the tag teams doing the closing segment. A lot of them too, though, to be fair, on SmackDown has been dominated by Cody and Cena and Logan Paul, which I understand. They're your biggest stars. Of course you want to feature them. John Cena's in his retirement tour. He's on the show. Of course you want John Cena to be ending the show, maybe even bookending the show from beginning to end. I understand it. But I think where a lot of fans are coming from is the idea that the shows are kind of all feeling the same week after week after week. And then you get to a PLE where you're gonna have maybe one story beat and a blow off. And so you can make an argument that the week to week television is less important because nothing's really happening for a lot of the stories. We're just waiting for the PLE when they're actually going to do something. A title change, someone gets a victory over somebody. It's almost like you could watch the first Raw of the month after a PLE. What are they gonna set up? And then go, okay, so it's gonna be Seth Rollins, CM Punk. Okay, cool. Well, I'll wait a month and then I'll see how the match actually unfolds. Because in between all of that, what am I gonna get? A couple of weeks of promos, and on Raw, a lot of just endings resulting in a brawl. So looking specifically at Seth Rollins' group right now, do you think it runs the risk of oversaturation or overexposing that group? Because again, to my earlier point, I understand wanting and needing to establish this faction on TV as this is the dominant, this is the big thing. This is the equivalent of focusing on the bloodline every week, right? Where it's segment after segment. This is the main thing, the main story beat. And what I do like is that because they are focusing on it so much, it's elevating the World Heavyweight Championship. I like that, but is a little bit off-kiltered, is a little bit out of sync, out of balance right now because every week is ending the same way. And if it continues on, going through Clash in Paris, Crown Jewel, the September show of whatever, Survivor Series, where it is just brawl after brawl after brawl to end Raw, I do worry a little bit that fans kind of tune out, and it doesn't feel very compelling because while on TV, it's chaotic, right? It's all over the place. For the live audience, it's great. There's a bunch of guys interfering in there. People's music hits, Roman Reigns' music hits, everyone pops, he comes down, Superman putt, you're getting all these highlights, these big moments happening. But when you are watching the product every week, then I can see where people start losing interest or tuning out or feeling like, this isn't really advancing any story. So for me on my end, I look at the Seth storyline and I think it would be great if they gave us more backstage moments. You know what, the Bloodline, one of the great things they did for months and months, or let's just say years, one of the great things was how you developed all of the characters and relationships backstage. There was the, okay, we gotta wait 10 minutes for Roman to get into the ring to finally say acknowledge me and then begin the segment. But if you watch Smackdown, for example, during all of that, you were getting relationships dynamics of Jay and Paul Heyman backstage, Sami Zayn, what is he doing this week? Jey Uso, Solo in the background, what's he doing? Different people breaking off and all of these different story beats. So then when you got to like the main event segment of the Bloodline, everyone's in the ring. Sometimes, or a lot of the times, things have happened already. And I hope with Seth's group specifically and the writing for that, I hope it continues to improve because I think great things of, you know, Bronson Reed being the shoe collector, I think that's awesome and that's a lot of fun, but I would like to see more of the character dynamic between everybody. And they've done some of that, like Braun Breaker, for example, feeling like he wants to lead and take over sometimes, run things his way when Seth was out. But it's not just to say like, okay, Seth's group, this is the big problem with WWE. Everyone's gonna have a list of things that they wish they could improve upon and do better at, or what they'd like to see. Like, yeah, I would like to see more women's storylines main event a show because they're focusing on it and it makes sense. And right now that's not the case. And you know, stuff I think just cycles, and some weeks or months it is Rhea and Io at main event of Raw, or on SmackDown, same thing. But I look at SmackDown and the last time the women main evented SmackDown was May 16th, and it was Tiffany Stratton versus Nia Jax. Again, of course they want to go with the hot, important angle, the one that they're investing the time, but it's TV and it's storytelling. If they write compelling stories, those stories can be featured in the main event. And it also, I think, helps elevate other people too, raises their stock. You want to see a Stephanie Vaquer in a Raw main event. The main event spot is the important spot of the show, right? And I think there are other examples of where WWE seems to be getting kind of stuck lately, where on Raw, for example, it does feel like it's the repetitive nature of it, where the show kicks off and it takes 5 minutes to 8 minutes for the show to begin. And by begin, I mean a match, a promo to start. We have to sit through the superstars arriving at the arena. I liked when they started doing that. Maybe it was about a year ago when we first got introduced to that. I really liked it. I still do like it. It's a sports feel. It's the superstars, it's the players arriving at the arena. Maybe change something like that up a bit. Have somebody get taken out in the parking lot. It's pre-filmed, it was earlier in the day. Because if you have certain episodes of Raw in particular, you got 2 hours and 20 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes for that episode of Raw. You got like 5 minutes of just introducing the show. Jey Uso opens up Raw, for example. Like, we're waiting almost 10 minutes or more for someone to talk, to start the show. And that's part of the point here is sometimes I think the time could be used more effectively. A promo on Raw lately, if it's going to be Seth Rollins and his group, or it's CM Punk and Gunther, or on SmackDown it's John Cena, or it's Cody Rhodes doing a promo. To get into the neighborhood of 20, 30-ish minutes. Punk and LA Knight were on Raw this past week. I love the dynamic between those two. I like their reasons for wanting to feud with each other and go after Seth and who's got the upper hand. They're both baby faces, but it was something like 20 minutes and it felt like they were spinning their wheels with it, where LA Knight in particular, it was circulating the exact same points. So I mean, why not start a show off sometimes with a really hot angle or a title match? Tag team title match on Raw. There's titles on Raw, by the way. Because sometimes where you have a LA Knight CM Punk promo, you want those big giant superstars featured. Of course you do. And you want them to do the promos. You're trying to sell this story. You're trying to sell maybe what's going to happen in the main event. You're trying to put this thing over, the storyline. But maybe it can be done and their points can be made within 10 minutes. Which creates a little bit more urgency, I think. You gotta move a little bit quicker. Why not have the show kick off with a brawl backstage? Parking lot brawl. Sometimes on Smackdown they've done this where it's like who done it, like someone gets hit by a car. So that's part of why I say it's stuck in a loop, because I think I see a lot of sentiment online, and we could just say it's the online internet community, the IWC or whatever it is, that people are never happy with it. I do think there's merit to it though, to say that the product can get too formulaic. It lacks the unpredictability that maybe some people grew up watching or they're used to in the past, where you're like, hey, you never knew how the show was going to start or the big shenanigans at the end. And I get it though. If we look back, how many times on Raw during like Austin and Rock and Corporation and everything in the 90s, it ended in this big wonky finish, crazy thing where there's 15 people ringside. Like, of course it happened a lot, but the product has changed and things have changed, and using those tropes, maybe part of the issue is that we've been there, done that, we've seen it all. And it's hard to maybe captivate the audience and show them something different. But I think WWE's been successful with doing different things some of the time, where they had things like, we're gonna have Cody and Kevin Owens brawl outside in the parking lot near Cody's bus, and the fans are capturing the footage. At Riddle and Seth Rollins, when they had a parking lot fight, and it was all captured and filmed, and then they posted about it. That stuff's fun, that's unique, that's different. Because the weekly TV product gets into a bit of a cycle of been there, done that, same finishes, same crop of people being featured every single week. I think sometimes then you're waiting for the pay-per-views, the PLEs, for the one story beat to happen. So the story that they're telling within the confines of the match itself, of the ring, can sometimes feel very secondary, and we're just waiting for the big moment. But I think of other moments where they've had a really excellent story being told. I was at Elimination Chamber when they did the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn brawl, street fight, no holds barred, lights out match. Sure, it was just very violent, but I love just the story they were telling there. So they do it. And WWE quite often nowadays feels like that's what they try to do, which is get that one story beat across for a big moment at a PLE, The Rock showing up, the John Cena heel turn. Whereas I look at something like AEW, and more often than not, I'm enjoying the story being told in the ring. So I will say the plus there is that you got options. But I did notice that the other thing WWE has been doing lately is kind of just abrupt character shifts. And I think this also kind of hurts the week-to-week storytelling. So let me give you some examples. R-Truth gets let go, released by WWE, contract expires, fan uproar, comes back, he's Ron Killings. He stands on the desk, he says he's Ron Killings, and we think, wow, we got a unique moment. It was like a run-in. They made it look like it was unplanned, unscripted. Truth gets the mic, starts talking, and it was great. It was captivating. Well, where are we like a month later with Truth? Saw him backstage with Cena. That was fun, but back to normal. Nothing was really capitalized. Grayson Waller, Austin Theory's breakup. Another example where I think that you've dropped the ball a little bit with the character dynamic and telling the story on TV. They just stopped. They were going somewhere where they seemed like they were gonna get frustrated with each other, put each other into singles matches. Remember that? Theory is now just off TV, whether it's an injury or not being used, whatever it is, but he's not on television. And Waller is just with the New Day. Now, do I think Waller with the New Day is funny and entertaining? Absolutely. So it's fun, it's great, but we didn't get any type of payoff. We just skipped all of that. And you have so much TV time. You couldn't have done any segment, an 8-minute match, nothing to say Waller and Theory are standing in a hallway and they mic them up and just say, hey, we don't want to be friends anymore, and move on. There's zero payoff. Or one of the big ones that has a lot of people back and forth on, John Cena's face turn. He turned face on Smackdown because Cody told him to. And Cena was like, yeah, I don't want to be a bad guy anymore. and then they had the match at SummerSlam. Some people really liked it because it made sense going into the match at SummerSlam. They got, the big Titantron, the old John Cena back. They were able to accept him as a babyface, so I see why it worked for some, but I also see the other side of it where fans were like, it didn't make much sense. You were told by Cena in the promo why he did what he did, but didn't have the payoff. And so that's another thing I think a lot of fans look at is how abruptly some characters are shifting. It's almost like the days of Vince, where Vince would have like a baby face, and then he would just the next day they'd turn bad. And they're bad because they're bad. And WWE today, under the TKO, the Triple H era of creative, I think in some aspects they've done a good job where characters are naturally progressing, like a Kevin Owens, even a Cody Rhodes has moments where he's a little bit darker. People aren't abruptly just changing from babyface to heel. They try to give them some justification, but sometimes I feel like they don't, like the Theory Waller breakup. That didn't happen. But I know what you're saying and I know what you're thinking. Just don't watch. That's often the argument you'll hear from anybody is just don't watch it if you don't like it. I like it. I like it every single week. I tune in every single week. I enjoy it and I know a lot of people do too. And you probably tune in as well because you're watching a video about wrestling and WWE right now. So it's okay to critique the things you like because you want it to do better so that you can see something even better. And there's plenty to like. But it's okay to critique the thing you like. Believe me, none of us know how it all works backstage because we are seeing the same finishes to the matches and we want something different, fresh, and we feel like it's spinning its wheels. We have no idea how it all works. It's a television show. There's timings, there's advertising, there's commercial breaks. Stuff's got to get timed out and flow in a certain way. I couldn't imagine how difficult it is to run that. Look at the Unreal series where they showed you behind the scenes at Gorilla where they're trying to time out a match and then they just started cutting stuff live because they were going over. So I couldn't imagine the pressure and stress of trying to hit everything all the time. And so when big dummies like me walk in and are like, you gotta change how you do the show, I don't expect WWE to turn around next week and have a whole different way of shooting things. It's just about maybe tweaking it in a way that feels a little bit more dynamic and fresh, where instead of doing the same beatdown in the ring to end the show with Seth and his crew standing tall, do it in the parking lot. You want Bronson Reed to stand tall? Have him do a tsunami to Roman Reigns off of a car. But I leave the big question to you. Is WWE stuck in a loop? What would you want to see changed, done differently? What do you enjoy right now too? If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button and click this video right here because we're talking more WWE. Have a great day. See ya.